Hello and welcome back to Excelsior Academy. So this is on-demand video. It means that whenever any student who is not able to understand any specific topic, they can put into the comment or they can WhatsApp or Telegram me saying asking that to make special videos on that particular topics. So you guys also can ask your queries. It can be anything, any questions. It can be solved biochemical genetics questions, pedigree analysis, anything you can ask. So I'll make the video so that it becomes easy for you guys to understand and study. So this is one among them, and this is being asked by the Gyanavati, whom I have met in the Telegram. So she has asked me about the cell signaling. So here this video is for her and for the everyone else also. So let's start our cell signaling. So signaling molecules and their receptors. So there are different kinds of molecules are there which transmits information between the cells. Now these information can be from one cell to a single cell, then it can be from one to many cells, like giving signals to many cells at the same time, right? Now molecules can be ligands binding to their receptor. So what does it mean? It means that if these are two cells are there, it will have its own receptor, and then this organism, the first cell, can release the molecules. These molecules can be the ligands. Okay, now these ligands can go and bind to the receptor. So what is happening now? From one cell to the another cell, a signal or information has been passed. Now depending on the binding between the ligand and the receptor, a signal will be carried out inside the second cell. Now, structurally, these signaling molecules used by plants and animals range in complexity from simple gases to proteins. So it means that even your gases like CO, that is carbon monoxide, NO, nitric oxide, all these can also act as signals. Okay. So what happens when these are released? When these are released, they go and bind and activate certain molecules or ligands, and then that ligands or the transcription factors goes and binds to the particular molecules. It can be another protein, it can be another RNA or DNA, giving different kinds of signaling, right? So it can be gases, it can be sugar molecules, it can be proteins, it can be anything. So signals can be anything, your ligands can be anything. Okay, so some of these molecules carry signals over long distance, whereas others act locally to convey information between neighboring cells. So this is very simple to understand that if you have got three cells are there, okay, and if this cell wants to give certain signal, then it will release certain chemicals which will be taken up by the over here. It will be taken by the neighboring cells. Now certain molecules are there which these molecules will transfer or will be transported using the blood system, and they will be passed on to the another molecule. So they go into the blood system. From the blood system they go to the nearby cells which are present near the blood system. So that is what they carry signals over the long distance, whereas they can also act locally to convey information between the neighboring cells. Now, some signaling molecules are able to cross the plasma membrane and bind to the intracellular receptors in the cytoplasm or the nucleus, whereas most bind to receptor expressed on the target cell surface. So here, for the signal molecules to cross the plasma membrane, it means that your signals need to be hydrophobic in nature, right? Now why it needs to be hydrophobic in nature? Because your plasma membrane is semi-permeable, and in order to cross the membrane it has to have the hydrophobic city, right? So when these molecules are hydrophobic in nature, they can pass through the plasma membrane, and inside they can bind to certain proteins, intracellular proteins, which goes and binds to the receptors which are present on the cytoplasm or in the nucleus. And this is how a range of cascades are taking place in order to complete one cell signaling. Now, modes of cell signaling. So here we are going to discuss three types of cell signaling. So the first one is endocrine signaling. In endocrine signaling, it is understood that the signaling is from the endocrine cells. Okay, so the signaling molecules or hormones, especially over here, are secreted by specialized endocrine cells, and they carried out the circulation to act on the target cells at the distant body site. So as I was discussing, so you have got the signaling cell, it is going to release all these signals. Now with the help of the blood system, it will be passed to the target cell. Okay, so this becomes the example of endocrine signaling. So the very good example is when we talk about hormones. So mainly your hormones are steroids or steroidal in nature, right? Except insulin, you have got the other hormones basically steroidal in nature. For example, steroid hormone like estrogen, which is produced by the ovary and stimulates the development of and maintenance of the female reproductive system and secondary sex characteristics. So these are like this. So these are produced by the ovaries, and they are transferred to the different target cells so that the female reproductive system and the secondary sex characteristics, that is enlargement of the breast, the hip size increase, the waist size increase, all these secondary sex characteristics then takes place. So there are different examples also which we will be discussing in detail in coming slides. Now in paracrine signaling, a molecule is released by one cell and it acts on the neighboring target cell. So this is going to be your first cell as we were discussing before. So first cell is going to release these ligands molecule. Now these are going to act on the second one itself. For example, the action of neurotransmitters in carrying signals between the nerve cells at a synapse. So here I'll just give you the brief example. So you have got the presynaptic nerve over here, okay, and then we have postsynaptic. So this we have learned during the action potential of the membrane potential. If not, please go through that video. Very well, it is been explained how the membrane potential is being transferred from one cell to the another cell. Okay, now this example is neurotransmitter. Let us talk about the ACH, that is acetylcholine. So here what happens is whenever there is an impulse transfer is there is an increase in the calcium level. This increase in calcium level results in the ACH vesicle formation, which releases in the synaptic cleft and it goes and binds to the receptor over here, which finally results in the increase of Na plus and K plus ion channels. So don't worry, this I'll be taking again in detail in coming slides. So this is one of the example for paracrine signaling. Now, in autocrine signaling, the cells respond to signaling molecule that they themselves produce. So the cell itself is getting targeted. It means what, the cell is producing the signals and finally those signals are going and binding to the first cell receptors only. Okay, now this case happens in the case of the immune systems whenever they are attacked by the foreign antigens. Now, this is the same example. So, certain types of T lymphocytes respond to antigenic stimulation by synthesizing a growth factor which drives their own proliferation. It means what? The cell which releases the ligands will go and bind to the cell's receptor itself so that they can undergo the increase in number of the cells. Okay. So, thereby increasing the number of responsive T lymphocytes and amplifying the immune response. So it is also noteworthy that abnormal autocrine signaling frequently contributes to the uncontrolled growth of the cancer cells. This is one of the signaling which is happening in the cancer cells. So cancer cell is not depending on the ligands or the growth factors which are produced by the other cells. It itself produces the growth factors and stimulates its own proliferation, and that's why it becomes uncontrolled growth of the cells and difficult to treat the cancer. So in this situation, what happens is a cancer cell produces a growth factor to which it also responds, thereby continuously driving its own unregulated proliferation as discussed. So this is what I have just explained now. Now, let's talk about all these signaling by taking one certain example. So we know that we just discussed about the steroidal hormones in the case of the endocrine signaling. So these are the examples of the steroid hormones like testosterone, estradiol, progesterone, cortisol, aldosterone, thyroid hormone, vitamin D3 and retinoic acid. Okay. So these are something which are produced from the cholesterol. So what are the ligands here? These hormones are going to play as the role of the ligands. Now, what are the receptors here? The receptors are going to be the intracellular proteins which are located in the cytosol or the nucleus. So it means what? Thus, steroidal hormones are coming from somewhere else, and since because of the hydrophobic nature, of the steroidal hormones, what happens? It is easy for them to pass through the plasma membrane. Okay. Now, once they are passed through the plasma membrane, there are certain proteins to which they bind, or to the nucleus, they will go inside and it will regulate the gene expression. Okay, so these hormones sometimes goes and binds to the certain proteins or the receptors which are present in the cytoplasm or in the nucleus, and then finally they regulate the gene expression. Okay, so these intracellular receptors respond to small hydrophobic signaling molecules that are able to diffuse across the plasma membrane as mentioned here. So examples, thyroid hormone, vitamin D3, etc. Now, so the steroid hormones are all synthesized from the cholesterol as already mentioned. Okay, the hormones like testosterone, estrogen and progesterone, they are the sex steroids and hence they are produced by the gonads, okay, of the females and the male. Now, the corticosteroids are produced by the adrenal glands. What are the examples? Glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. So, they are which act on the kidney to regulate salt and water balance. Now, there is one more. Ectidocin is an insect hormone which plays an important role in the development of triggering the metamorphosis of larvae to the adults. Okay. The others are thyroid hormone. Thyroid, they are synthesized from the tyrosine in the thyroid gland, and they play important role in the development and regulation of metabolism. That's why you must have seen that there are many females who after the operation or like because of certain factors, they get the thyroid problems. So it can be hypothyroidism or it can be hyper. So what happens in the case of hypo? There will be a sudden increase in the weight of the female body, right? If it is hyper, then there will be drastic reduce in the weight of the body. So what will happen? Even if they try to eat a lot, they won't be able to increase their weight. Whereas in the case of hypothyroidism, what will happen? Even if they eat less and they do lots of exercise, still they are not able to reduce their weight. Then we have got the vitamin. So we know vitamin is essential for bone growth. It helps in the calcium metabolism. Retinoic acid is nothing but your vitamin A, okay, which also plays an important role in the vertebrate development. So these were the examples of the steroidal hormones which we have discussed just right now. So how these steroidal hormones are actually undergoing the cell signaling. So this is what is being explained over here. So you have got the, let's see the figure first. So you have got the steroidal hormone over here, easy to diffuse as already mentioned that because of the hydrophobic nature of the steroidal hormone, it will enter. Now this is again easy for it to enter the nucleus. Okay, so what happens after entering the nucleus? It goes and binds to the receptor. This receptor goes and binds to the DNA sequences, okay, which will regulate the transcription. So this is how it is affecting the gene expression. So transcription and translation, if it happens, it is both telling you that the cell is having its own regulated gene expression. So let's see what written over here. So because of the hydrophobic character, the steroid hormones are able to enter the cells diffusing across the plasma membrane. Inside the cell, they bind to the intracellular receptors that are expressed by the hormonally responsive targets. Okay, so they will be binding to the receptors which are produced by hormonally responsive target cells. Okay, it means what? Only those cells will be acting in which the hormones is going to have its effect. The rest of the cells will not have any effect. Now these receptors, they are the members of family of proteins known as the steroid receptor superfamily. So they are belonging to steroidal receptor superfamily. So they are actually acting as the transcription factors and they go and bind to the DNA binding or transcriptional activation. Okay. So the binding of hormone induces a conformational change in the receptor. So anytime whenever there is a ligand which goes and binds to the protein or to any receptor, there is always a conformational change. Now this conformational change in the receptor, which is actually a protein, will allow it to bind to the DNA sequences which is responsible for regulating the gene expression. So what is happening? It will go and it will allow it to bind to the regulated DNA sequences and activate the transcription of the target genes. Hence, there is a gene expression. Okay, so this is how it is happening. Now, what happens if suppose there is no hormones are there? So what will happen? So thyroid hormone receptor, it will act as repressor in the absence of hormone. It means what? If there is no hormones, it will go and bind to the DNA sequences and it will stop the gene expression. That is, no transcription will take place. But if the hormones are present, it goes and binds to these pockets which are present on the thyroid hormone receptor. It will go and bind over there. What will happen there? Again, same thing. The conformational change is there, the uh, which will allow the polymerase to carry out the transcription. Okay. So that was all about the steroidal hormones. Let's talk about the nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is in a very good example for your paracrine signaling. Okay, so the signaling through steroids was the example of endocrine. This is very good example of your paracrine signaling. Now, the simple gas nitric oxide is a major paracrine signaling molecule in the nervous, immune, and the circulatory system. It is able to diffuse directly. Why? Because these are the small gas molecules. So again, it is easy for them to cross the plasma membrane. Okay. Now, the molecular basis of NO action it is different from the steroidal action, of course, right? So it will not go and bind to the receptor, but it alters the activity of the intracellular target enzyme. So here there is no binding taking place, but what is happening? It is changing the activity of the intracellular target enzymes. So nitric oxide is synthesized by the amino acids from the amino acids arginine by the enzyme nitric oxide synthase. Please remember, because these are the few certain things which comes for your part B questions in the CSIR. Okay, and in IIT, JAM and GADB also a single 2 marks question can be asked. So please remember, nitric oxide is synthesized from the amino acid arginine by the enzyme called nitric oxide synthase. So this slide is important. So this is how the chemical reaction is there. So this is the arginine. You have got the nitric oxide synthase, and you also have NADPH, which is actually getting oxidized over here and becoming NAD plus, right? You can see oxygen is coming over here and arginine is getting oxidized. So there you can see that there will be release of the nitric oxide. And after the removal of the nitric oxide, what is left is called citrulline. So what is happening? Once synthesized, the NO diffuses out of the cell. So what is happening? Again, it is gas molecule, right? Small gas molecule. So it can go out of the cell through the plasma membrane very easily. Now it goes and it act locally to the affecting the nearby cells. Hence, it is the paracrine signaling. Now its action is restricted to such local effects because NO is extremely unstable. Please, this is NO. Okay, nitric oxide is extremely unstable. So with a half-life of only few seconds. So what does it mean? So the moment it is passed and it reaches the nearby cells, what happens? The half-life of the NO is so less that it is not able to cross the more barrier, right? So it is just acting on the nearby cells only. So whatever nearby cells are present, only to those the effect of NO will be seen. Okay. So one of the best characterized example of nitric oxide is the dilation of the blood vessels. So what is the first step over here? The first step is the release of the neurotransmitters like acetylcholine from the terminus of the nerve cells in the blood vessel wall. So neurotransmitters will act on the endothelial cells to stimulate the NO synthesis, and finally this will result in the dilation of the blood vessels. Okay, so NO then diffuses to the neighboring smooth cells where it will react with the ion bound to the active site of the enzyme called guanyl cyclase. So what is the activity of guanyl cyclase? It is actually resulting in the formation of cyclic GMP, and cyclic GMP, it acts as the secondary messenger. Now this will result in the muscle cell relaxation and blood vessel dilation. So till now what we have seen? So we have seen that from arginine, nitric oxide is being synthesized with the help of the nitric oxide synthase, right? And what is happening? So when NO is released, it diffuses to the cells and it goes and binds to the iron-bound artery sites of the enzyme called guanyl cyclase. Now, this guanyl cyclase results in the production of secondary messenger called cyclic GMP. Now, this finally results in the muscle cell relaxation and blood vessel dilation. Okay. So, this is very important. Please remember this slide also. Now, it is also interesting to note that the medical use of nitroglycerin in the treatment of heart disease is based on the conversion to nitric oxide. Okay, so this will help in dilating the coronary blood vessels and increases the blood flow to the heart. So you know that what happens in the people who are having this coronary heart disease, so they have got very thin blood vessels. So with the help of the nitroglycerin, it helps in the dilation of the blood vessels. So what will happen? More space will be there for the blood to flow in the heart. Okay, so coming to the neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters carry signals between neurons or from neurons to the other types of the cells. So it can be like from the neurons to neurons or from neurons to the muscle cells. One example. So they are very diverse group of small hydrophilic molecules. So just see over here, one thing very important is that these neurotransmitters are actually hydrophilic molecules. So they cannot just pass through the plasma membrane. Okay. So here they need the help of the receptors or channels. So the examples are given: dopamine, epinephrine, GABA, serotonin, glutamate, etc. So the release of neurotransmitters is signaled by the arrival of an action potential at the terminus of a neuron. I repeat once again, like one of the videos is there in the channel called by action potential or membrane potential. Please go through that. Please go through that video. It is very well explained over here. The transmission of the neurons or the nerve impulse. So what happens when the neurotransmitter is being released? It is then diffused across the synaptic cleft and binds on the receptors which is present on the postsynaptic neurons. Okay, so because the neurotransmitters are hydrophilic nature, they are unable to cross the plasma membrane, and hence I told you that's why they need receptors or the channels. So many neurotransmitter receptors are ligand-gated ion channels, such as acetylcholine receptor. Okay, neurotransmitters are there which will go and bind to the receptors, and then there will be conformational change. Because of this conformational change, what will happen? It will again result in the opening of the ion channels like Na plus and K plus. So let me explain you with the diagram over here, and that's why I have kept the space over here for to explain the stuff. So this is, just imagine, this is your presynaptic neuron and this is your postsynaptic neuron. Okay, so this is presynaptic neuron and this is your postsynaptic neuron. Now what happens is, whenever there is an impulse transmission is there is an increase in the calcium level. Okay, now this calcium level results in the formation of or activation of the enzyme called acetylcholine synthase. Now this synthase will result in increase of the acetylcholine. Now this acetylcholine will be present in these vesicles which will go and fuse with the plasma membrane of the presynaptic neuron through exocytosis, right? Now this is being released over here. Now this portion is called your synaptic cleft, the space between the presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic neuron. Now these receptors are released. Okay, now what will happen? There are the receptors for the acetylcholine. So they are called acetylcholine receptors. So these receptors will be bound with these acetylcholine. Now after this binding, there will be conformational change which will result in the opening of the channels. Now what happens when there is a conformational change? Now this will help in giving the signals to open up the Na plus or K plus channels. Right, now when these channels are open, what happens? Again there will be a change in the action potential. So what does it mean? So from your first cell, an action potential has been transferred to the second cell, and similarly it will go to the third cell. So this is how there is a transmission of the impulse. Eicosanoids. So there are several types of lipids which serve as a signaling molecule. Since they are the lipids, again they are able to cross the plasma membrane. So the examples are eicosanoids. Examples are prostaglandins, prostacyclin, thromboxane, and leukotrienes. Okay, leukotrienes. Now, these eicosanoids are rapidly broken down and therefore act locally in autocrine or paracrine signaling pathways. So let us talk about the autocrine pathway over here. So they stimulate a variety of responses in the target cells, including blood platelet aggregation, inflammation, and smooth muscle contraction. Now, how these eicosanoids are synthesized from the arachidonic acid? So phospholipids, from phospholipids, it is the arachidonic acid. It is then prostaglandins and the leukotrienes. Now, these prostaglandins will be further results in the formation of the prostaglandin A2, thromboxane A2, or prostacyclin. Now, always remember that these prostaglandins are the ones which results in the pain sensation. So whenever there is any wound or injury is there to the body, there's a release of these prostaglandins. So prostaglandins results in the pain sensation. So if you can block the formation of the prostaglandins, then there is no pain. So interestingly, the enzyme that catalyzes this reaction is a cyclooxygenase. Okay, so it is the target for the aspirin and the other and non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So what happens? This aspirin. So whenever you take the aspirin, what happens? It is actually uh, blocking the action of the cyclooxygenase enzyme, and hence there is no release of the prostaglandin and no pain you finally get. Okay. So it inhibits the synthesis of the prostaglandins. Aspirin reduces inflammation and the pain. So finally, what happens? It also inhibits the synthesis of thromboxane since it is just blocking the first enzyme, right? So there won't be any further synthesis of the prostaglandins or thromboxane. Now, thromboxane will now inhibition of thromboxane will result in the reduce of the platelet aggregation and blood clotting. So this can also used in order to prevent the strokes in the case of people who are having the heart problem. Okay, so that's all about the cell signaling. I hope you like the video. If yes, please share and subscribe with your friend circle, and any other comments and suggestions are there, it is well appreciated. You can also write to us on Excelsior Academy 1228@gmail.com. Thank you for believing in us and giving me this opportunity to make this video for you. Thank you, Ganavati, for this opportunity.